We've got to interrupt that report by Hani Mahmoud as we can stay here in Doha and head over to the Qatari conference taking place, the Islamic and Arab Summit, which is kicking off Monday.
Conceivable under the international law. And within this context, we express our appreciation to the Arab states who condemned this Israeli barbaric attack and their support to the lawful measures we will take to safeguard our sovereignty. Attacking Qatar's sovereignty is a violation of the UN Charter, namely Article 4, which prohibits the use of force against countries and its sovereignty. It is also a flagrant violation of the international norms and humanitarian tenets. It cannot be an isolated incident that can go unpunished. It must be met with fierce and firm measures. The inhumane Israeli government and with their acts have sent out a message that they have crossed all the red lines. They will continue to undermine and destabilize any state in the world and undermine any political efforts that stands in conflict with their agenda or expose the falsehood and falseness of their propaganda. That's why we cannot remain silent in the face of this barbaric attack, and we take harsh measures in order to prevent further action. If we remain silent, we will be faced with an unlimited and countless series which will end up in total destruction, and no country will be spared. Valued, respectable, distinguished guests, it's time for the international community to abandon dual standards and to hold Israel accountable for all the crimes perpetrated by them. Israel must know that the continued genocidal war against the Palestinian people, aiming at forcibly transferring them outside of their homeland, cannot succeed, no matter what false justification be provided. All these attempts are known, exposed, and rejected by the international community. The Israeli government continued to turn down proposal after the other, intentionally widening the circle of war, placing the region's peoples, including their own, to a grave risk. And here we would like to reiterate, this region cannot enjoy peace, stability, and security, nor peoples enjoy justice without the Palestinian people restoring their rights, establishing their independent state on the 1967 borders. We in the state of Qatar reiterate that moderation as a means for amicable settlement is not an obligation, yet it is an ethical responsibility deep-rooted in our philosophy. Just and lasting peace is a strategic option, and based on this, we emphasize that the Israeli practices, barbaric and hubris, cannot dent our resolve from continuing to cooperate with our partners in Egypt to bring this unjust, unlawful war to an end. It is no secret that on Thursday last, we stood before the Security Council in order to condemn the Israeli attack on the state of Qatar, and we also appreciate the solidarity by the world states in support of our stand, and we also welcome the statement handed down by the Security Council in this respect. Today, we must take harsh measures to put an end to Israel's hubris and their continued violation of the international law and countless crimes under cover from the international community. Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure to welcome you in your second homeland, the state of Qatar, and express total appreciation for your participation in this emergency Arab and Islamic summit convened following the treacherous Israeli aggression on September 9th.
Right, well, let's find out more on what is being said there. Charles Stratford is joining us now live from Doha. Now, Charles, the meeting's underway there, and, you know, we've had some headlines come through. The Prime Minister there, Qatari Prime Minister, says Israel's attack will not lead to anything but aborting de-escalating efforts. What can we look ahead to? And what's the reception going to be like from the rest of those people who are convening?
Hi there. Yes, sorry, the comms here is very distorted. I only made a little bit of your question out there, but yeah, we have a statement now that has been made by the Qatar Prime Minister, and a statement again lambasting Israel and demanding some form of accountability. Some of the statements, as you can well expect, were very strong. He described the attack in Qatar as a violation of the UN Charter and a flagrant violation of international law, which of course he has said before, and it's this kind of language that has been echoed not only by regional leaders, countries close by, but the wider world too. He said that Israel's action cannot go unpunished. We cannot remain silent, he said. We must take firm actions. Israel's attack will not lead to anything but the aborting of de-escalation efforts. Israel's aggression will only lead to the failure of the negotiation process. As I say, the sound was very distorted in my ear, but we go into tomorrow's summit. We understand with some form of draft agreement that has been discussed today, but all eyes are going to be on whether such an agreement can actually be implemented, how effectual it is going to be to stop potential future Israeli aggression. We've already heard over the last few days from Netanyahu saying that Hamas are fair game, implying that they may well even be another attack here in Qatar, and that's despite assurances from the US President Donald Trump in the immediate aftermath of that attack taking place, vowing that such action would not happen again. So what can the Arab world, what can GCC, Gulf countries, what can the Organization of the Islamic Conference, who are meeting here today and tomorrow, what can they actually do? Well, analysts will tell you that it's all to do with the level of trust, frankly, that they have now with the US. Let's not forget that this attack happened in Qatar when you had the largest US base in the region here. And there are still questions being asked as to how the Americans did not know or have sufficient enough warning to potentially prevent this attack. That, of course, is denied by the White House. They say that they were told, but there wasn't sufficient enough time to prevent it. So what can actually be done? Well, they're looking here for a coherent and collective response. Is it going to be with respect to, for example, looking at alternatives on the security front? Can they wholly rely, seemingly not, on the Americans to protect this region? So are we going to be looking at potentially reaching out to other security options, other nations that may be willing to step further forward or offer more? Are we going to be looking at potentially weapons agreements, the sharing of weapons systems? Because, of course, the Qataris said the reasons why these missiles hit, one of them was because they were unable, technologically, with the weapon systems that they have, to prevent those missiles actually hitting their target and not being intercepted. Then, of course, analysts are also talking about the potential of putting pressure on Israel, both diplomatically and in terms of trade. Think about the three countries that have signed up that are members of the Abraham Accords since 2020, namely the UAE, Bahrain and Morocco, that have full diplomatic relations with Israel and, you know, billions of dollars worth of trade as well. So what kind of pressure can those countries put on Israel? The fundamental emphasis, though, and question really is whatever statements come out of this summit tomorrow, how they can be implemented. Because it is fair to say that the Arab League, that GCC countries, and that the Organization for the Islamic Conference, though arguably not coming up against such a major crisis as this before, have made statements pertaining to security in various other different arenas regarding other crises, and are accused of not being effective enough. So it's going to be very interesting to see, firstly, what this agreement actually holds, and then, of course, whether indeed it can be implemented.
Charles, thank you very much indeed. Charles Stratford there, joining us from the Media Centre, where this summit is taking place here in Doha.